Alright guys, so I wanted to do a video on this honestly because I've just gotten in quite a few arguments about if it's possible to really pay off a TDI swap or a diesel swap in general. And I think the biggest problem is most people just get pretty extravagant with their builds, and they also just kind of figure in the overall cost because they go through and rebuild the whole vehicle. And it's like this Jeep, I mean, obviously a lot of that stuff is extra, but again, I would have done that anyway, so I don't really consider that part of the swap. But I guess that's the biggest thing there is I really only factor in the diesel engine, and then I even have a hard time factoring in performance parts because I would have put those parts into whatever vehicle I drove. So that gets a little touchy there, but I will factor a lot of that in. Obviously, I already have when I do the swap, but I think the biggest issues that most people argue with me about is just the fuel mileage, which I can't argue, or I mean, I can't prove that to you on Facebook or whatever over the phone. But this truck would not hold 70 mile an hour up a hill. And in fourth gear, just flooring it, the best MPG I could get was maybe 15, but I pretty much averaged 14 or even 13 if there was any kind of wind with the V6 in here. I honestly quit driving it. It was so incredibly worthless on the highway. With the 80 mile an hour speed limits I deal with, I can't hit the top of the hills at 60 mile an hour. It kills me. So anyway, pull up my sheet here and go over just I did a whole video on this sheet here, but you can see there the cost I spent on the Wrangler and the Toyota there at the bottom when you're factoring in being able to sell a lot of parts off the donor car. It really offsets a ton of the cost. I mean, even then though, without the donor car, I'm still not spending over $4,000 really. But again, if you look at that parts list, I'm not buying a whole lot of new things. And I mean, you can look at my engine bay and you can see I've reused almost everything. I mean, there's a few new lines, but I'm running the Volkswagen power steering reservoir, obviously the Volkswagen pump. I've got the Toyota's factory line bolted right to the original Volkswagen pump. I mean, I'm just using cheap fuel line, pretty much everything there. And then I mean, this radiator, I honestly already had this radiator put on there because I had an issue with the other one, with the factory one, so I figured I might as well put a triple core in while I'm doing it. And so the intercooler up here and the intercooler piping, obviously, my screen keeps turning off here. But those parts are all right there on eBay for just nothing. I mean, you can get a pretty nice intercooler and spend a little more on piping, and you still won't have over $200 in that eBay stuff. And yeah, I mean, I replaced the coolant hoses, stuff like that, just the ones that I had to. But like, this piece is new, and then once it switches back here, I'm still running the factory VW hose back there. So just overall, I really just reused so much stuff that I really did cut the cost down to pretty substantially less than a lot of people put into these swaps. And so I don't know if that's just hard for people to fathom or what, but seems like that was kind of an issue that I just can't get across to people, is that this is all just the original hoses and everything for the most part. Um, but then, like I say, as far as the fuel mileage, I wrote this up on a sheet here. Hopefully we can get it all in there and it's clear to see. But doing a like 1,000 mile breakdown on this Toyota, and I actually redid this for the Toyota because diesel was a lot cheaper whenever I factored this for the Jeep. I mean, diesel's crazy right now. It's 5.37 a gallon. I mean, gas is under $4, but still, if you look at the math here, basically I'm saving $76 on every 1,000 miles I drive with a basically $2,300 price tag on this Toyota swap. I have basically 30,000 miles. You can do the math if you want. I rounded things a little, but 30,000 miles, and this swap is paid for itself, even just making $76 every 1,000 miles. That being said, obviously there's a lot of variables that go into that. Of course, I've had issues that I've had to deal with the engine, but again, I have a hard time putting that kind of those issues into the payoff cost, because that's saying that the Toyota engine would have had no issues at all. And I just don't see that happening. There's so many issues with a lot of these gas engines. Maybe they're not as expensive, but I'm still running the factory engine, and really 30,000 miles is not that much. So I did make this over here where if you spent 4,000, you'd need 52,000 miles to pay it off. Even at that, if you're going to daily drive a vehicle like this, that's not that many miles. I mean, I pretty much did this swap because I have I have a couple of Jettas that I have ran, and I just don't like driving them at night, and basically in the wintertime there's just a lot of variables between deer and ice and snow that I'd rather have a four-wheel drive. So that's pretty much what kind of pushed me to swap this, because the Jeep does get more like 22 miles a gallon for the most part, and that's just starting to use quite a bit of fuel. Not that overall 26 isn't that much better, but it is. And honestly, when I drive slower, it does get closer to 30 miles a gallon. So it is really impressive for what it does. But anyway, um, I did this whole swap because of that, and I put about 15,000 miles on a year. And honestly, I did the math. It hasn't even been 2 years. And this thing is paid off and making me money at this point. So, I mean, yeah, guys, you can definitely get carried away and make this too much of an investment. But for me, this setup that I just did here, it's been about a year and 10 months, and this truck is officially just making me money. So I cannot complain about this swap at all. So, not to say there's not issues and stuff isn't going to go wrong. And I mean, heck, you might even have a few more issues than you would with the factory engine. But if you're on any kind of forums or even on just Facebook groups, I see so many issues every day with the factory Toyota engines and the factory Jeep engines, and heck, even the old 350s that are supposed to be bulletproof in the Chevys, they all have their issues. So I like I say again, I just really can't factor that into the cost of paying this swap off, because once it's in there, I pretty much consider it to be one with the truck. And at that point, the issues are just issues that I would have had anyway. So anyway, that's kind of my take on this. You can disagree with me if you want, but that's what I have come to determine, and I'm just gonna keep swapping stuff because I can't get enough of these little engines. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully that maybe helps you decide if this is worth it or not, because it definitely is to me. Like I say, those numbers just can't really lie. As long as you can get anywhere close to that kind of mileage, anything that can pay itself off in less than 50,000 miles is worth it to me. So that's where I'm at on it. See you guys next time.